I'd like to show you an example of the power of cloud computing. And this is about how you can deploy an application quickly and easily on the cloud. And I want to compare it to the way we used to do things before cloud computing came along, and the way it often still is done in companies today. So in this example, we're going to deploy an e-commerce website on premises. So this is kind of like the old way of doing things. So firstly, we need to purchase our hardware. Now, I haven't even taken into account here the timeline associated with getting the approval to purchase the hardware. Often there's a lot of planning and approvals that can take weeks in a company. But of course, you might do that for spending any kind of budget installing an application in the cloud as well. Now, this also assumes that you don't have a private cloud or you don't have the capacity in your private cloud. So in this example, you do need to purchase some hardware to run this application. So you go out and you purchase your hardware, and then it's going to take 4 to 12 weeks to get that hardware. It can really vary. It can be longer sometimes, can be faster, depending if your provider actually has that hardware on stock. You've then got to install and build. And installing into your own data center, as I mentioned earlier in the section, can be a bit of a challenge. So sometimes it can take quite a long time to install into your own data center because you've got to think about making sure you don't impact existing production services. And if you're leasing space in a third-party data center, often they have their own approval processes as well. So that can take anywhere from a few weeks to a couple of months, and it really depends on the complexity of your build. You've then got acceptance testing. Now, of course, you do have to do some of this in the cloud as well, but there's less to test. So there's a lot more to test when you have the physical hardware layer and the sort of management layers underneath that as well, or the hypervisors and that kind of thing. So there's quite a lot there. That can take 2 weeks, can take 4 weeks. Again, it could be quite a bit longer. You've then got to hand over to your operations teams. They've got to operate and manage this, including the underlying physical infrastructure layer as well. So that's extra time. So now, you've got this big timeline, anywhere from 3 to 6 months just to install an application. So how would we do this in the cloud? Well, in the cloud, we have our corporate office and we have our internet connection, and then we're going to deploy something into the AWS cloud. So what happens is the admin will deploy the e-commerce website and database using the AWS management console. So he's literally just going in to a browser window and saying, this is what I need. And that website will then be deployed, the database will be deployed, and they can be connected together. Customers can then come and use your application. Now, of course, there's a bit more to it than that. You've got to install and configure your application. You've still got to do your user acceptance testing. But there's no hardware to purchase. You don't have to install any hardware into a data center. You can literally go in through a console and launch that infrastructure because it's all available in the cloud. So that is an awful lot faster and easier than doing it on premises. And there are also some great cost benefits as well, because you can make sure that you size your website and database according to what you need. And if you find you need more or less, you can easily adjust it. So those are some key benefits of the cloud, which we're definitely going to explore in more detail.